Charles, thank you for your time. The CEO magazine is delighted to be partnering with the Australia-Israel Chamber of Commerce to bring readers the Leadership in Focus series, a series of interviews designed to get up close and personal with some of Australia's top business leaders. As the CEO, what can you tell me about the AICC and why the organisation is so passionate about leadership and innovation?
Thanks very much for the opportunity, Dan, to talk to you today, and thanks very much for the association with the CEO magazine. We're very happy to be associated with you, and leadership is a real key focus of what the Chamber is all about, as you've said, as is innovation. Leadership in particular about where the country is going to and what Australia is going to set itself up for over the coming years now the resource boom has gone. So innovation sits really firmly in that place behind resources, because where is the innovation going to come from? Innovation in Israel is second nature to people, so the link between Australia and Israel to promote innovation in this country is key. Leadership comes from people, and the events that we put on throughout the year are focusing on bringing topical discussion into the marketplace so that we can provide a conduit to inspirational leadership and thought leadership around what is it that this nation needs to grow for the future.
Fantastic. Some of the biggest names in Australian business, government and politics are AICC members. All have spoken at your events. How did the AICC become one of the most well-known and active business organisations in Australia, and what initiatives and benefits do you provide to your members?
The people that we've had come and speak at various chamber events come from politics, come from industry, come from academia, and I think that's what stands us out as an organisation, that we bring those three places together where you can come and become inspired and meet the right people in the room, which is what we're known for as well. People like Malcolm Turnbull, John Borghetti, Paul O'Sullivan, and David Gonski and Ina Areva, just some of the type of high achievers that engage with our audiences and lead young people and also our business leaders in the discussions that these topics bring to the organisation. And we like to see ourselves as being topical and like to see ourselves thinking forward that bring the type of business discussion that needs to happen now for the country to succeed going forward.
Yeah, brilliant. Some big names there. Your national membership boasts more than 1,000 companies. Why do you think so many leading organisations are drawn to be a part of the Australia-Israel Chamber of Commerce?
I think for the link between Australia and Israel is critical. Israel is a country that fights well above its weight in terms of academic excellence and in terms of innovation and the startup nation, the venture capital that exists in that country. And people would like to become part of what we do because of the connections that we're able to establish for people at the right level, especially for our members, obviously. Our members come to engage with like-minded individuals at our events, and they also get an opportunity to hear from the type of people that we have speaking. So the engagement happens after the events as well that we do, so that if we can connect people at really high levels for the levels of connections that they want, and we almost act as a business development manager for those organisations that looking to access certain individuals within other businesses, and we provide that opportunity for them to do so. We do it on a national basis, and the Chamber has a reputation as being the type of organisation that speakers come to because they want to get their message across, but also that we've had market feedback from the surveys that we've done that tell us that we're looking at ideas and thinking that is what they've been thinking about, and it's a great opportunity to come and learn from those type of people that we discussed previously.
The AICC has a very successful young business forum with the purpose of inspiring future leadership talent. How should we be preparing tomorrow's leaders given the current social, political and economic state in Australia?
Well, first of all, you should come to our events. That's a no-brainer. And you should also come to one of our trade missions, because we've got Wyatt Roy, MP, for Longman. He's going to be taking a trade mission for young entrepreneurs in November. So we've always had a focus on the young business leaders of tomorrow, because they need a voice and they need access to information that's relevant to that cohort. But at the same time, if you come to one of our Young Business Forum events, we don't check driver's licenses, so you'll have access to people at different corporate level within both academia and at business levels, and you'll be able to possibly meet mentors that can help you as a young business person in this day and age, something that I think previous generations might not have had access to and been as open to as we are.
And just quickly, Charles, how would one become a member of the Young Business Forum?
Just come along to one of our events. We have events that happen usually on a monthly basis, but then it doesn't matter which type of level of membership, whether you're an SME, whether you're a corporate, whether you're a sponsor. Come along to our events, and we have a series of different types of opportunities for you to engage with people at those events.
Fantastic. Charles, you've recently returned back from a trade mission to Israel, hosted by the AICC and Simon McKeon. Tell us more about the key objectives of this mission.
The mission was focused on 4 key areas: innovation, science, technology, and social ventures. Simon had particular interest in that, and the 35 delegates also. So the mission had a key objective from talking to the delegates that were from a whole diverse set of businesses, whether it be venture capital, whether it be startup businesses, incubators, large superannuation funds, healthcare businesses, and research companies. They wanted to understand what it is about Israel that allows it to, as I mentioned before, have such a significant number of venture capital invested in it, 31 billion over the past 15, 20 years. And it has a massive startup focus and a startup culture. And they wanted to see if there was a silver bullet that they could take from Australia and bring it back to Israel. And having seen people's expectations more than met and exceeded in that time, it was incredible for me to watch as my first trade mission, how the delegates got to come back as different people from where they were from when they first started. They weren't expecting it, and having talked to a lot of trade mission reunion delegates over the various trade missions that have happened over the years, the theme is the same, that it's a life-changing experience to go on one of these trade missions, not only from a cultural perspective, because obviously Israel is a place where the 3 major religions of the world were originally started from, but also from the STEM focus at a very early age, the focus on the confluence of defence, technology, the culture, the venture capital, a whole host of areas that became evident as the week progressed, and something I highly recommend everybody to come on.
What a great initiative. What are some of the key learnings and outcomes as a result of connecting Australian entrepreneurs and business leaders alike with Israel's thriving technology sector?
The word that everybody used over the time is the ecosystem, which is an unusual word to talk about a country that's focused on technology. But what's interesting is that only 10% of the workforce is involved in technology, yet it makes up 50% of the GDP of Israel. So having a country that has a ecosystem derived from a right for it to defend itself, first and foremost, so an existential threat, a country that's 1/3 the size of Tasmania, with a population about a third of Australia, and a focus on STEM from a very early age. And we went to an amazing place called Technodar, which is a school focused on STEM in particular, but it's also in a low socio-demographic area that allows for children from the community to come and learn at whatever level for free. It's a state-run school, but it also has a philanthropic background as well, which was interesting. But the interesting thing also was to go into a classroom of 3-year-olds and see, instead of pictures of teddy bears and toys, you've actually got models of Albert Einstein, Thomas Edison. So from a very early age, children are being taught this is how you move through life, how you succeed. And then we went into a classroom of 8-year-olds where there was a fully functioning operating theatre and an exposed CT scanner, which the kids were quite able to articulate and explain to us what they were seeing. That level of focus is inherent in the community, and it's also part of what the government does to try and stimulate the economy that way. In 1993, the government set up something called YOSMA, which is the first venture capital initiative that the government set up, and that basically started venture capital in Israel. And over the years, the chief scientist of industry funds $500 million US of venture capital into the startup industry, which is something that this government would, or this country should do in particular, to get the initiatives rolling and to get the interest in education, the level of education through defence, because obviously defence is a big part of the economy there, and the focus all the way through into university, because the universities are also involved in venture capital, and they commercialise IP that comes out of the initial investment that the country has made in its youth. So even from an early age, the army are identifying straight from school, 3-year compulsory army service, those people that will excel in a particular field. They're then put into a particular unit that they with like-minded individuals, and then once they're finished in the army, they'll come back into the education system through university, create IP that is then funded 3 ways: through venture capital, through the government, and internally through the university. And the university commercialises that IP and gets royalty. So it's a whole different way of thinking. Long answer to a short question, sorry.
In 2014, Israel reported to boast the largest concentration of startups per head in the world, with almost 1,000 new firms launched every year. According to Deloitte, international investors placed nearly as much faith in their Israeli investments as they do in their American counterparts, a notable achievement for an economy 301 times smaller than the US. What do you think Australia's tech startup sector and investment community can learn from Israel?
I think Australia's got an amazing start already within that space by the level of excellence that already exists in the academic institutions in the country. The availability of capital to want to invest in venture capital. I think the tax breaks that the government needs to be looking at that allow for people to invest into businesses and to allow share option schemes that are tax beneficial to employees will basically take the countries to another level, as far as I'm concerned. Israel has an amazing startup culture, as I've mentioned, but so does this country. I've been here for 18 years, and as a migrant, and a country's full of migrants. This country allows amazing opportunities for those people that want to exceed what they were doing previously and to try and better themselves. And I think that would be true in the startup economy as well. So Australia, I think, is fantastically placed to benefit from that. It's an island that needs to engage on a global level. Israel has a very small landmass, and its only natural resource is intellectual property of the human capital it has. This country has great human capital and has some of the lessons that can be learned can come from the R&D initiatives that the Israel government is looking to bring into Australia, and the openness for our federal leaders to recognise that innovation is the one thing that is going to allow this country to really prosper. Now, as I mentioned, the resource boom has dropped off, and the concept of being open to failure. I think that's really the main thing that I got from being on a trade mission. Failure is perceived in this country as being a serious negative. In Israel, it's seen as being the first step. If you haven't failed, then why are we talking to you? We want to see some track record. Whereas over here, you fail, you won't try again. And I think that has to come from a cultural change. So that's a lesson seriously that can be learned. I think because risk is so much part of corporate culture in terms of its mitigation, I think that also lends itself to the community. And Israel has a very high risk focus, and I think that's another lesson that we can take back, because if you're not prepared to give it a go, and you're not prepared to fail, then you're not going to get very far. But if you've already accepted the fact that, okay, if I fail, what are the learnings that I can take with me to the next opportunity? The venture capital firms that we met with and the Office of the Chief Scientist in Israel were very strong on this particular topic, because they were saying that they invest in people who've got track records of either something that hasn't worked because it didn't work for whatever reason, but the learnings they got, they're going to bring to the next round. And seed capital is where the Office of the Chief Scientist focus on, and that will specifically be aimed in that way, and venture capital people feel the same. So we were listening to venture capital people that have started what became massive businesses. So for example, Dob Moran created the USB stick, sold his business for 1.4 billion. But that wasn't the first business he'd started, and it's certainly not the last. So these numbers are massive, but there are plenty of people over there that have fascinating business opportunities that are grounded on the basis that people are prepared to give it a go. And Australia's about a fair go.
And finally, Charles, where do you think opportunities lie for Israel and Australia in technology and innovation? And what can we expect between the two countries in the next 5 years as Australia's own tech sector starts to mature and develop?
Well, I think the visits at the end of this year by the Office of the Chief Scientist from Israel will be particularly key to all of this, because for the past 4 years, the Australian government and the Israeli government have been discussing a possible R&D initiative. And if that comes off, that would be fantastic for this country, and especially in the tech sector. The focus in innovation is really going to come from a focus in STEM and science, technology, engineering and maths. And we recently did a function with Wyatt Roy, the MP I mentioned previously, who's been to Israel a couple of times and seen the culture, the ecosystem that I discussed previously. And Luke Sayers, who is the CEO of PwC, talking about the lack of STEM focus at education, at government and business level. And that's something that, as I said previously, is key to to Israel's success. So I think having a focus on the lessons that can be learned, and how over time, if this R&D initiative happens, that will go specifically to talk to those type of opportunities. And I think an openness by business to come along to obviously our functions, but also trade missions, because I think a trade mission, having been on one myself, is a great way for companies and people to engage in what they see over there. And we have a lot of people visiting from Israel over here. There's a lot of Israeli businesses that are already established over here and are keen to get their learnings to the wider world. Israel is a small country, as I've said, but it has a global focus. Australia as an island has a global focus and sits so well within that Asia-Pacific area. And we know that Singapore, China, India, Malaysia, Indonesia, all of these countries are focusing in tech as well. And they also have good educational institutes. So we know that innovation is not just a word that is to be used as a common theme for people just to get buzzed about. It's what's going to drive the world economy over time. Disruption is commonplace now in various industries, and the way to succeed in that marketplace is not a given for anybody that's already achieved it before. It's a constantly evolving thing. So I think over the next 5 years is going to be a very interesting time, because over the past 5 years, if you talked about some of the companies that didn't even exist 5 years ago, they're multinationals now. And Israel has so many good things going for it that we can learn from as Australians.
Well, Charles, thank you very much for your time. We at the CEO Magazine are very excited, not only with the partnership with the Australia-Israel Chamber of Commerce, but we're also very excited about the space that you guys are working in at the moment, and we look forward to seeing what eventuates in the future. So thank you very much.